Since our last quarterback rankings, a lot has changed. Quarterbacks like Jared Goff have gotten huge bags. So we're going to talk about our quarterback rankings, what has changed, and how we're valuing our quarterbacks. We're basing this off 4-point passing touchdowns. It's really the only thing that matters here. We'll start off with the S tier. Dak, who's our first quarterback?
Yeah, it's still going to be Josh Allen. We've had him here ever since we've been doing quarterback rankings. He lost Stephon Diggs in the offseason. They drafted Keon Coleman. The weapons are not the same that he's accustomed to in previous years, but we expect Josh Allen will be able to figure it out regardless. He's been QB1 last year and in previous years. He's an absolute stud. We love Josh Allen. Nothing's changing with him.
So our next quarterback, we're gonna have Jalen Hurts here. This is an unpopular opinion, but in a 4-point passing touchdown league, Jalen Hurts is simply he's irreplaceable, right? He gets so many rushing touchdowns. They didn't ban the tush push. He's still gonna get probably 10 plus next year, and that really just gives him so much value. He's also a decent bit younger than your Allens and your Mahomes, so we're okay with having Hurts here. He is QB1 fantasy breaking 26 points a game upside that I'm not sure Mahomes really has. Unless he throws for 50 plus touchdowns, but that's why I've Hurts over Mahomes. But yeah,
Yeah, so rounding out this last tier, we've got Patrick Mahomes, as Dalton alluded to. They just drafted Xavier Worthy. They signed Marquise Brown in the offseason. They still have Rasheed Rice suspension pending, most likely, but he's still going to be there at least for the second half of the year. And then, of course, they've still got Mahomes' security blanket in Travis Kelce. So Mahomes' weapons could arguably be the best in his career. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but the quantity of the targets that he can throw to is really good there. So we're still going to have him in his tier. He's right at that 28 age. He's still in his prime. Really excited for Patrick Mahomes. He's in this S tier. Dalton, who we got starting off the next
hey
one?
guys, real quick, we're gonna give away a free roster review when we hit 200 subscribers. So if you want to enter that, subscribe and leave a comment. Now back to the video. Starting off the A tier, we're gonna have Lamar Jackson. Once again, I want to reiterate, this is a 4-point passing touchdown league, and that's why your rushing quarterbacks are boosted up. And Lamar is probably the best rushing quarterback you could possibly have. Every single week, Lamar is going to get you 4 to 10 points on the ground with his legs, and that's just, not finding that anywhere else. He's so good at running the football. His weapons are about the same as they were last year, but they're pretty solid. But Lamar makes his own points himself. He's going to run the ball. He's going to throw it deep to, Zay Flowers not bad. Mark Andrews is going to be healthy, so we love Lamar. He's going to keep putting up points for years to come. Who's next?
Next, we've got CJ Stroud. He had one of the best quarterback performances from a rookie that we've ever seen. And then in the offseason, the Texans went out and got Stephon Diggs, just strengthening that wide receiver core. He now gets to throw to Diggs and Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Great weapons. You can't ask for more. And Stroud is so young, it's expected that he's going to build off that rookie season that was already phenomenal to begin with. We're really excited for CJ Stroud for years to come. His ceiling is so exciting. He doesn't run the ball, which is like preventing him from getting that S tier, but we think he's a solid quarterback in this A tier. Really excited for CJ Stroud.
So speaking of someone who doesn't really run the ball, but does have a great arm, talk about Joe Burrow next. Burrow hurt his wrist last year, which caused him to be out for the year, but still looks pretty good. His weapons are the same. He's got T. Higgins. He's got Jamar Chase for the long term. They drafted Jermaine Burton, who maybe can replace T. Higgins if T. Higgins was to leave. I'm not worried about the weapons. Like Joe Burrow is going to score fantasy points. Once again, he's lacking that rushing upside, kind of like Stroud, which is why we have him not in that S tier, but he's still an A-tier quarterback. He's a fantastic thrower of the football. He's going to give you tons of points. They've also made quite noticeable additions to the O-line, so that'll hopefully help keep Burrow A, healthy, and B, just get more time to throw the ball and score more fantasy points for your team. Dak, who's next?
Yeah, the last guy on this list, we've got Caleb Williams. They just drafted Rome Odunze to pair with Williams in Chicago. That's going to be such an exciting offense. You have Odunze, who Williams can build with for the rest of his career, and you also have Keenan Allen, who they acquired in the offseason, and then the resident number one in that offense in DJ Moore. It's going to be a great offense. Caleb Williams also brings rushing upside to the table, which Stroud and Burrow don't. So if Williams has a great enough year, you could see him in this S tier by the end of the year because he's got rushing upside, something that Stroud doesn't have and is holding him back. Williams is not lacking in the rushing upside department. So we're really excited to see what he can do with this offense. Really expecting big things in year one for Caleb Williams. Dalton, who do you got starting off next year?
Sorry, on the next year, we're going to have Anthony Richardson. Richardson's someone who's we are so excited for because he could just absolutely break fantasy. Once again, I'm getting all the Russian quarterbacks, but Richardson is just another absolute monster when it comes to rushing the ball. Easily has the upside to be the best in the league, and it's not even particularly close. We saw in just a couple games last year that he can just score a ton of fantasy points from rushing touchdowns. Even just throwing the ball wasn't too bad. He has nice receiving core now with Pittman, Downs, and they drafted A.D. Mitchell, so we're excited for that. The reason why Richardson is not higher is because he missed a lot of last year with injury. He got a messed up shoulder that could be a problem long term. We don't know. And just the real issue is here is he could be injury prone. If he gets injured again next year, a long term injury, that could really hurt his long term value. And we don't want to see another like Trey Lance situation happen. We don't think it will, but it could. So that's why he's a little lower. Who's next?
Next, we've got Kyler Murray, another rushing quarterback. At this point, he's another year removed from that ACL tear, so he should be more comfortable running the ball. I think he was a little bit apprehensive last year when it came to running the ball. I think that should be gone this year, and it's full go for Kyler Murray. He's also always going to be a good passer of the football, and then they bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. in the offseason, an alpha wide receiver to pair with Kyler Murray. They've also got Trey McBride at tight end, who really emerged last year, so good weapons for Kyler Murray moving forward. Really excited for him. Again, it's a 4 point, so rushing quarterbacks are more valuable. And Kyler Murray can run the ball. So we're really excited for him having another good year this year.
So our next person will be Justin Herbert. Herbert really lost a lot this offseason, unfortunately for him. Keenan Allen's gone, Mike Williams is gone. They did draft Ladd McConkey in the second round, who's a player we do like quite a bit, but him being the only real weapon on the team is quite detrimental for Herbert's value, at least this season. We do think long-term Herbert will be fine. They'll figure it out. They'll give him more weapons. There's also question marks there as if they're going to run the ball a little bit too much. Harbaugh likes to run the ball. Yet to be seen. But Herbert still has the great talent, and he has the ability to jump back in that A tier where he was only a year ago. So, yeah. Dak, who's next?
Yeah, next rounding out this tier, we've got Jordan Love. First year starting last year for Green Bay, had a really good year, especially in the second half, and we think he's only going to build off of that and get more comfortable as a starter in the NFL. We really expect big things from Jordan Love. He doesn't have the rushing upside that the other guys do, like Kyler or Caleb, Anthony Richardson, but he's still a really good passer. They didn't bring anyone in the offseason, but I don't think they needed to. They have another year to build with Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, all those guys. Love to gain a better rapport with them, and we think he's going to have another good season. He's going to be definitely a solid quarterback for years to come for your dynasty teams. Dalton, who do you got starting off this next tier?
So the C tier is going to start off with Jaden Daniels, who was drafted second overall by the Commanders. Two main things with Daniels. Draft capital, we cannot ignore second overall draft capital. Going to be a starter there for at least 2-3 years. And while he's there, number two, his rushing upside is going to score him fantasy points. He is going to be, at worst, Justin Fields 2.0, where he's going to score you a lot of points and not be a good NFL quarterback. The upside with Jaden Daniels is that he can be like Lamar and be a good NFL quarterback and score you a lot of fantasy points. We are a little bit apprehensive on Daniels as a prospect. We're not sure he's going to pan out as an NFL quarterback. However, Jaden Daniels is going to provide you opportunities to sell because he's going to score fantasy points. Think Justin Fields, how he was worth 3 firsts only a year ago. Daniels could easily do that himself, even if he's not that good of an NFL quarterback. So if you have Daniels, just be a little cautious with him. Maybe try to sell him if his value gets a little too high, but otherwise, he's a nice quarterback to have. Dak, who's next?
Next, we've got Trevor Lawrence. He lost Calvin Ridley in the offseason, and then they bring in Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft, so definitely a good weapon for him. They also signed Gabe Davis, who shouldn't provide too much, but it's somebody, and then they still have Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. So good weapons surrounding Trevor Lawrence. Last year just wasn't really a great year for the Jaguars. They just seemed to be like one step off, one step behind most of the year. We expect a bounce back year for that offense, and then in turn for Trevor Lawrence. Really excited for him. Just another solid quarterback on your dynasty teams for year to come. Dalton, who do you got next?
So our next person will be Drake May, drafted third overall by the Patriots. And like I just said with Jaden Daniels, that draft capital cannot be ignored. He's going to be the quarterback there for 2 or 3 years minimum. However, we think Drake May is a better prospect than Jaden Daniels. We think he's a better NFL quarterback. He also has decent rushing upside, which we do love to see in our quarterbacks. The obvious flaw with Drake May is not him, but his situation. The Patriots are just such an ugly landing spot. There is not really anyone you want him to throw the ball to there. They did draft Jalen Polk in the early second round, which is not who we would have taken there, but, they did draft a high second round receiver, so you can't ignore that. And they got some other pieces. I think Drake May will work out, but he's going to have a hard time doing it himself. So just be careful with Drake May. Who's next?
Yeah, next we've got J.J. McCarthy, complete opposite of Drake May. He got a fantastic landing spot. He went to the Vikings, stepping into an offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. Really can't ask for anything better for a rookie quarterback. We're really excited for him. We don't think he's like the craziest prospect. He's still a good prospect, but all he has to do is be a Brock Purdy type of quarterback, and he's going to produce a ton of fantasy points. You can't not with those weapons. Really excited for that landing spot, and in turn, we're excited for J.J. McCarthy. So he's going to end up at this spot. Dalton, who do we got next?
So rounding off our C tier, we have Dak Prescott. Dak's coming off maybe his best year as a pro. Like, he was just absolutely amazing last year and scored a ton of fantasy points. I think he was QB2. Dak's a little older than these other guys, which is why we have him a little bit further down. He does not currently have a long-term extension with the Cowboys. We think one will come, but who knows? He doesn't have the best weapons in the league. CeeDee Lamb's obviously a stud, but then he's got like Brandon Cooks there. But we just think Dak could have another nice year. Dak Prescott at this point, he just is what he is. We know what he's going to be. Pretty nice quarterback, just getting a little up there in age. Dak, start us off in our D tier.
Yeah, next we got Brock Purdy. I just mentioned him when talking about JJ McCarthy. Brock Purdy is another guy who's in our fantastic system. Obviously, he's throwing to Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall in the draft. So we're expecting that one of Debo or Ayuk does move on, but still, it's a great offense. Obviously, you got Kyle Shanahan, who's probably the best offensive minded coach in the NFL. Yeah, so Brock Purdy's going to be what he is. He was QB6 last year. We don't think he's getting there again. We talked about it in our buy low, sell high video that he is a sell high of ours. We would sell him if we had the chance, but we still think he's going to be like a solid QB2, and any given week he could provide you QB1 upside. Yeah, he is what he is. He doesn't really provide you much in the rushing game, but he's surrounded by a credible cast of receivers, so we like him.
I'm also nervous about Purdy long term. I'm not sure that the Niners are sold on him to be their franchise quarterback. We'll see.
Yeah.
They might pay him Jared Goff money, and I'd be very happy if they did because I do not like the Niners. But yes, our next quarterback's gonna be Tua. Tua's got a fantastic system around him, right? Tyreek Hill is probably the best receiver in the league right now. Jalen Waddle's an absolute stud. Mike McDaniels knows what he is doing. Tua's kind of like another Brock Purdy. I think Tua's a little better than Brock Purdy. But the system's not quite as good. Tua is going to give you nice QB2 fantasy points. He's yet to really prove to be a QB1 besides a couple weeks here and there, which is why he's a little bit lower, like lacking that upside. He does not run the ball whatsoever. But we do think Tua is like a solid QB2 to have. He's a great QB3 if you have two stud QB1s on your roster. So yeah, Tua's fine. Who's next?
Yeah, we got Jared Goff, who just a few hours ago signed a mega extension with the Detroit Lions. He's a QB10 finisher the last couple years, so at this point, he's proven that he can produce for fantasy. He is getting up in age, but he just got that job security that we're looking for when we're talking about these QB2s. We're really excited for him. Obviously, he's still thrown to Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Ben Johnson back there as the offensive coordinator for another year. Jahmyr Gibbs coming out the backfield. So it's going to be a solid system for years to come with Jared Goff. Just a solid QB2 that you're building your dynasty teams around.
And possibly a really nice value QB2. You might be able to get Jared Goff much cheaper than you're getting like a Brock Purdy for JJ McCarthy for, and he's probably going to put up similar points to those guys. So next quarterback, starting over each is going to be Deshaun Watson. Watson's a very controversial player. We haven't seen him put up really good fantasy numbers in quite some time now, but it is possible that he could return to at least 90 to 80% of his prior form. He's shown that he can still rush the ball pretty efficiently. They're getting Nick Chubb back. They have a really great offensive line there. They did bring in Jerry Jeudy, who's, whatever. Amari Cooper's there. So, and towards the end of the year, I think a big thing that they started doing, they changed up the playbook and they started chucking the ball deep with Joe Flacco. If they transition to Deshaun Watson and they keep chucking the ball deep and let Deshaun Watson run, I think he could have a really monstrous season. He could also suck and get benched. So there's two sides of the story here. I think Watson's either like a nobody by the end of next year or is going to be up like one or two tiers in these rankings. I think there's no between. So make the bet on Deshaun Watson if you want or not. Dak, who we got next?
Yeah, so next, a guy that I'm actually rooting to succeed for in the NFL, we have Bryce Young. He was drafted first overall last year to the Carolina Panthers. It was a disastrous year. They just didn't set him up for success at all in that offense. This offseason, they did a much better job. They brought in Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette in the first round, who we're not the biggest fans of, but they're still trying. They also invested a lot in that offensive line. They brought in Dave Canales from Tampa, who revived Baker Mayfield's career. So I'm really optimistic that Bryce Young's second season in the NFL is going to be much better. He also has a solid rushing floor, just a few hundred yards a year, a couple touchdowns, so it's not nothing. We expect that offense to be much better, and we also think that Bryce Young, in turn, will take a step up than last year. We like him at this spot. I think you can probably get him cheaper than this. If you're able to do that, do it right away. We really like him, and we think by this time next year, he can return on a lot of value. If he has a good year, he's going up to our top 14 of our rankings.
Easily.
Possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bryce Young's a fantastic bet. If you can get him for cheap in any of your leagues, I would go do that in a heartbeat. So our next player rounding off this season is Baker Mayfield. Baker's a player we really do like. He's a fine NFL quarterback, kind of given the vibes of Geno Smith a couple years ago, except good, right? Geno Smith had that one lightning in a bottle year. Baker's had some nice years in the NFL, and now he's got, the same weapons he's had the last couple years, and they're just really good weapons. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, they just drafted Bucky Irving and Jalen McMillan, just two nice players just getting added to the team. And Baker signed a nice $100 million 3-year deal. Upside to be a nice high-end QB2, possibly. If not, he's a great QB3 to have or a fine QB2 to have. Baker's just, you know what you're getting with Baker at this point, but, I'm not mad if I have him on my team.
No.
Definitely. What's our last tier, Dak?
Yeah, so starting off this last tier, you've got Kirk Cousins. We were much more excited about Kirk Cousins. I think we still are excited, but then they draft Michael Penix, which was just really head shaking. And then when you look at the contract that Kirk Cousins signed with the Falcons, you see that there's an out after 2 years. So if they feel like Michael Penix is developed enough or Kirk Cousins isn't performing the way they like, they could move on. But for now, we're still going to have him here starting off this tier. He's always been a great fantasy producer. We don't think that's going to change. He's going on offense with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. So it should still be a couple more good fantasy seasons for Kirk Cousins, but you're just understanding if you have him on your team that he could be moved on from in 2 years because they have Michael Penix. There's also a chance that he serves out that entire 4 year deal and you get a good return on your investment, but it remains to be seen at this point, so we're going to rank him here.
But also, if he does get traded or cut and signed somewhere else, he's probably going to be a starter, at least until he doesn't want to be a starter anymore, because
Yeah.
he is that good of an NFL quarterback. So I wouldn't be too worried about the Penix thing with Cousins, just because he's going to start somewhere, even if Penix starts, unless if he sucks. But I don't think he's going to suck.
He is getting older. That's
He is
the
getting a
thing
little
to
older,
remember.
yeah, for sure. Our next player is going to be Bo Nix, who was drafted pretty high by the Denver Broncos in the first round. We did not think Bo Nix should have gone in the first round. We did not think he's that good of an NFL prospect. However, we have to respect the draft capital that the Broncos put into him. The offense is anemic. It's just a really bad situation for Bo Nix. But once again, like if he does somehow hit in this terrible offense and he is just a good NFL quarterback, he's going to triple in value, quadruple in value from where he is right now. So we have to have him somewhere here. I'm okay if you have Bo Nix. Like if you got him in the late first round, early second round of your rookie drafts, and you just have him on your bench and just have him chill there with the upside. Like I'm okay with that. I'd also be willing to trade him away for like a future first. I would be more than okay doing that just to not take the risk if we don't think he's going to pan out, but he might. So who's next, Dak?
Yeah, next we've got Michael Penix. I just talked about him when talking about Kirk Cousins. Drafted 8th overall to the Falcons. If there was no Kirk Cousins, obviously he'd be much higher than this. Probably near JJ McCarthy.
Yes, so much higher.
that
It's actually
year.
crazy how much of a difference it is.
But he did end up there, and he's not starting for at least 2 seasons, most likely, and could be longer than that. We're really not sure. It's a bad situation for him. If you're a rebuilding team and you're able to take a flyer on him in like the early second round of your rookie draft, we would like that move. If you're a contender, stay away from Michael Penix. It really just depends on what your team situation is right now. Eventually, though, he should be stepping into a good offense. Theoretically, they still have Drake London, Bijan, Pitts, all those guys there. So it's a good situation whenever he gets there.
I saw a tweet that said Michael Penix is the Roth 401k of the of Dynasty,
Yeah.
and I really like that. I think it's pretty true. I think Penix is almost guaranteed to go up in value from where he is right now, barring Kirk Cousins playing all 4 years. But whatever. Our next player is going to be Matthew Stafford. You know what you're getting with Stafford at this point. He's been in the NFL for forever. But he's just a nice QB2. He's going to throw the ball to some stud wide receivers. Cooper Kupp's still kicking it. Puka Nacua is an absolute stud. We don't know how long he's going to play for. He might retire after this year. We don't really know. But as long as he keeps playing, he's going to put up decent fantasy numbers. So Stafford, just a nice, cheap QB2, QB3 to have. Not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Finishes off, Dak.
Yeah, the last guy we've got here is Will Levis. And like Bryce Young, you can't say the Titans aren't trying to give Will Levis the best chance to succeed. They bring in Calvin Ridley this offseason. They also brought in Tyler Boyd this offseason. They invested into that offensive line. They signed Tony Pollard. Like, they're giving Levis every opportunity to succeed. Now it's just on Will Levis to take that opportunity and actually run with it. Last year, he had an not so great year, mixed results for him. So it's really a prove it year in year 2 for Will Levis. He wasn't a first round pick, so it's conceivable that they move on from him after the season. But if he has a good year this year, then he buys himself probably another couple years of starting opportunity. And at that point, his value goes way up than it is right now. So if you want to just throw a mid-second round pick into him, that's probably what it's going to take to get him. And it could pan out.
Yeah, I'm okay with doing that for Will Levis. I don't like Will Levis. I really don't. But if you can get him for a second round pick, like, go do it. Like, his value, like, he could be like that Purdy to a golf tier by the end of the year if he has a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.